Welcome to ACAD. I'm Bill. Yes, there's been a name change in adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. The change is from ACA to ACAD. The change was discussed in meetings all over the world and then voted on. The majority favored adding the letter D to ACA to signal the openness of the program to folks from all sorts of dysfunctional families, not just folks from families dealing with alcoholism. So the name has been tweaked a bit, but the program is the same. For example, there was no alcoholism in my family, but my parents inflicted severe childhood trauma on me anyway. By working the ACAD program, I was able to rid myself of the worst of the problems my parents had caused me. As a result of my efforts, I started to feel a sense of wholeness, which has become my normal experience of myself. I'm posting this series of videos because I want the world to know what's been made possible by this program. Two of the most important parts of the program are the ACAD literature and the self-organized meetings. Anyone whose childhood trauma makes them seek recovery will find help and a home in ACAD meetings. You can search for meetings near you by going to adultchildren.org. As I said, the ACAD literature is also a vital part of the program for recovery. The main book for ACAD is the Big Red Book, or BRB. There are other books and some workbooks with helpful exercises. And there are pamphlets like the one explaining ACAD programs for newcomers. The pamphlet is often given for free at meetings. You can learn more about the literature and purchase it at adultchildren.org. Reading the ACAD literature is vital primarily because it explains the theory of recovery for adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. Adult children are people who suffered abuse growing up and who, as adults, still feel some of the effects of their childhood trauma. There are a variety of stories in the literature about the different kinds of abuse people in recovery had inflicted on them. There are also stories about folks who have actually recovered from the effects of that abuse by working the program well. The ACAD theory of recovery says that, in general, an adult child must get in touch with their wounded inner child and learn to become their own loving parent so as to reparent that hurt child. In theory, a person can expect two results from working this program. One is that you get rid of the bad effects of your childhood trauma, such as pain, anger, or self-destructive behavior. The other is that you'll discover, like I said, a sense of wholeness you never knew was possible. Something I especially like about the ACAD theory is that it does not assume that one size fits all. If you read it, you'll see the literature recognizes that everybody is different and unique. Everyone's childhood trauma is different, and therefore everyone's path to recovery is unique. As I mentioned, the ACAD program is for that category of adults who want to recover from childhood trauma. Because the program is for this large group of adults, the literature explaining the program is written in terms that are general and suggestive. No one is told specifically what he or she must do for recovery. In ACAD, we don't all march together. Each person has to find their own particular way of working the program. There's an expression in 12-step programs that says, take what you need and leave the rest. This expression recognizes that everybody has different recovery challenges and needs. Now, somebody might be thinking, isn't there a logical contradiction in saying that ACAD has a recovery program, but that every person must find their own path to recovery? Another objection might be that as a practical matter, a so-called recovery program that leaves people to find their own way seems rather useless. So why do folks in ACAD say that they are working the program when the program says, in effect, you've got to walk that lonesome valley by yourself? In this video, I'll try to untangle that paradox for you. I'll talk about what it means to work the program, and I'll point to two big traps that some of the people working the program fall into. First, what does it mean to work the ACAD program? I'll address this question in two ways, one from the logical point of view and the other from the practical point of view. From the logical point of view, working the program means you move your thinking from the general theory of the program to your own particular self and situation. The main problem here is to ask yourself, how do these general principles apply to me? To answer this question requires that you engage in the ACAD literature well enough so that you're familiar with the general concepts. For example, the wounded inner child and becoming your own loving or caring parent. The problem is to find yourself in these terms. Once you understand this logical relationship between yourself and the ideas in the literature, you'll then see that nearly every aspect of working the ACAD program is a practical matter of going from the general to the particular. Now you might wonder, how does this work in practice? Number one, in practice, it's vitally important to become familiar with the ideas in the literature. This includes the big book, the workbook, pamphlets, and other readings, like I've said. Number two, while you're studying the literature, it's very important to find a meeting or two that are convenient for you and then to attend them regularly. Keep in mind that the reasons you're doing these things is because you want to learn to apply the general principles of ACAD to your particular self. One of the main requirements for success in working the program is that you learn to increase your own self-awareness. In fact, as you study the literature, you'll see that almost everything in the literature is meant to help you to become more aware of your own inner self. Take, for example, the two most important general concepts in the program for recovery, the wounded inner child and learning to become your own loving parent. Both of these ideas require that you look into yourself to fully understand what they mean for you. The ACAD recovery program assumes that every human being has an inner child. That is just part of the human mind. When a human is growing from child to adult, their mind accumulates new experience and understanding, like the accumulation of tree rings growing in a tree. Nobody discards their early experiences of life. Childhood experiences are always a part of the adult person's mind and personality. But the people who come to ACAD have not just an inner child, they have a wounded inner child. These wounds can have negative effects on the adult child's experience of life. As I mentioned earlier, the ACAD literature is full of stories about particular people, their wounds, and their efforts at recovery. In order to recover from the bad effects of these wounds, the adult child has to, first of all, become aware of what they are and how the wounds negatively affect their lives. This requires increasing your self-awareness. Actually, your self-awareness has to go fairly deep into your mind. So there are two primary reasons why some folks find it that increasing their self-awareness is very difficult to do. One is that our society only teaches its children to look outside themselves. You learn to look outside yourself for career models. You learn to look outside yourself for playful and fun activities. You learn to look outside yourself for finding a mate or a partner to be happy with. Almost nobody comes to ACAD with a mind that is already skilled at looking inward. Most of us have to begin that process from ground zero. This can be daunting and confusing. Meetings and sponsors can help in this, reading the literature too. The other primary reason that learning to look inwardly is so very difficult is that most folks in ACAD will find a lot of pain buried within themselves. Sometimes it's a deep, wrenching, heartbreaking pain. Seeing and remembering what your parents or caregivers did to you entails reliving the hurt their conduct inflicted upon you as a helpless, trusting, and loving child. Unfortunately, ACAD recovery can't come from just taking a pill, an injection, or a drink. Those methods have often been tried, and they have failed every time. For ACAD, it's like the gym. The rule is no pain, no gain. So your pain has to be felt before it can be healed. But who wants to feel pain? Some people might think that if going from general to particular requires me to tap into my buried pain, then maybe I should seek recovery another time. So the fear of pain can move people to stay away from ACAD and not even get started on applying its general principles to their particular self. Also, there are other forms of pain avoidance. Someone might start going to meetings and suddenly decide they don't want to associate with a bunch of losers. Or they might tell themselves, recovery's not so hot. I'll be happier sitting in a bar or smoking a joint. Good luck with that. Another form of pain avoidance can be seen in meetings. I call it waiting for Godot. In Samuel Beckett's play, two characters show up every day at the same spot and wonder, when is Godot going to arrive? But Godot never comes. In a similar way, some people show up for meetings, but they only share about their bad day at the office, or their spouse's misbehavior, or the difficulty of raising kids, or how hard it is to find a new job. This is an imitation of sharing without looking into themselves. But that is not how the program is worked well. For folks who share like that, recovery, like Godot, never comes. My second major trap for people, besides all those forms of pain avoidance, is a little less common, but it still does happen. I know it so well because it happened to me. I call it the philosopher's disease. This is a method of avoiding the pain by not looking inside yourself beyond the level of ideas and words and concepts and theories. In the beginning, learning the general principles of ACAD is mostly a matter of the intellect. Reading and comprehending the meanings of the words, phrases, paragraphs, etc. is something almost everyone in our society learns to do in school. In ACAD, as you read about the principles, you begin to apply these principles to your particular self. You try to see how the principles can increase your self-awareness. Unfortunately, folks with the philosopher's disease don't get to the application step. That is, they study and study and study without taking the leap into applying what they have learned to their own particular self. These people don't just understand that ACA recovery is not a physical system, a philosophical system. It doesn't teach a code of ethics or the meaning of life. Recovery is not an intellectual challenge for the rational mind to overcome. People who stay in their intellect get caught up in analyzing and categorizing everything. But learning ideas or theories about recovery does not in itself bring recovery. The philosopher's disease is a clinging disorder. The infected person doesn't let himself or herself realize that to finally heal in ACAD, you have to let go of all the words and concepts, the theories and ideas. Then you have to start feeling the feelings of your wounded inner child and find your way to reparenting that child. In fact, healing mostly takes place at the level and below feeling, in the unconscious part of your mind, well below the level of intellect. When you learn to work the program well by increasing your self-awareness and reparenting the wounds in your wounded inner child, your natural healing power will go to work. The pain and confusion the wounds have caused just go away. Then you'll start feeling that wholeness, and you'll find that it becomes a normal part of yourself. So thanks for listening. Feel free to leave comments, questions, objections, whatever you want to say in the comments section. Send me an email if you want to comment privately. In future videos, I'll address the concerns raised in the comments, and I'll have more to say about what I've learned from practicing secular ACAD. Please smash the like button and also subscribe. When the algorithm sees your approval, it'll show secular ACAD videos to more YouTube users. For now, I'll close with the ACAD secular serenity affirmation. Today I seek the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that one is me. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it.